fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's going with the outside of both of them. Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson. Anderson's up to
Oh my God! Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's going to get rolled.
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, there we go.
Oh no!
That's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh my God.
God, what?
Was a bit wet today when it came to practice 3, and then qualifying came about and it started to dry up. It was incredible in terms of the action that they had and in terms of a precursor of what racing could be like tomorrow. iRacing's got you covered. The iRacing Grand Prix Series with the iRacing Open Wheel Community, Round 7, second half of the season, Hungaroring. We're going to love it. We're going to enjoy it. And these drivers know for 34 laps with a tyre change to go with it as well, a compound swap, that time is of the essence. It is a very tricky track to find overtaking at the Hungaroring, but if there is any time, any place you want to get some great racing action, it is going to be here from Magyarod in Hungary, the 14-turn track, which has since 1989 been a part of the Formula One calendar. Jake Sperry, Jay Kennedy here. Jay, this has been the sort of place which you look at as a circuit and has only had 2 real revisions of a track. They've extended the run at turn number 1, given it an extra, I would say, 150 meters down in towards it. And then, of course, it used to be a very fast run into a 120-degree turn 13. They extended out turn 12 and made it a braking and overtaking opportunity.
Yeah, hello, Jake. Hello, everyone. It's a fantastic track, and it's been underrated, I think, since it's been added to the iRacing service. It's provided some brilliant racing in this series, and we've seen each and every time the DRS has provided some very, very entertaining action. So looking forward to seeing how it does play out. But yeah, this track, loads of fun. And looking forward to seeing how the racing goes. Some interesting names here tonight and some interesting names absent as well.
Yes, absolutely. And when it comes to finding names and finding drivers who are here, it is best 8 of 12 that scores in this championship. Oliver Stepanov, 1,332 points. He has a lead, but not much of one over Luis Nunez, who is in second position right now. That gap, 32 minus 9. Anybody? 23 points. Yes, you're absolutely correct there. So 23 points, the gap at the top. Kalen Chin, currently third, but not here today. So we'll take the second of his drops with Marcel Fassbender in fourth position. Anthony Catt fifth in the championship. And look how close it gets going down. Kent Nielsen, Victor Allard, Felipe Giro, Jeremy Olivieri, and then the tie for 10th between Adam Webjay and Corey Sharbo.
Yeah, it's a quite tight championship this season, isn't it? We don't normally see drivers tied for points anywhere in the championship, but to see drivers so close and then tied in that 10th position, really, really cool to see. It's going to be a very, very fun race as well. Expect to see a lot of close groups, but if someone can break the DRS here, it's going to be very, very interesting. Could be a big points changer in regards to the championship.
It definitely could be a huge points changer, and I'm sure drivers in their qualifying efforts right now, they have 8 minutes or 2 laps, whichever comes first, to put their time on the board, and they'll all be searching to try and move up on the times as much as they possibly can. Flicking through then the left and the right is Matteo Ugolotti, who is trying to put his first lap on the board. Will have just enough time to set another one if this first lap does not go in the back of the pocket. Oliver Stepanov is head and shoulders above the rest of the field right now. He's up by almost half a second at those points in time. And then coming towards the line, can Ugolotti find anything to match it? He can, but it is second best at the moment, a 1:14 flat.
A good lap, but just not quite good enough, but he'll be okay with a front row start. We'll be happy to make sure that he's on the front row, but it looks like everyone is done in qualifying. Anthony Catt will be the last driver to come across the line, but I think he's going to practice a pit entry. And sort of correct. That's qualifying done. Still a minute on the clock. I don't think anyone else will be able to improve. Maybe Cedric Beale.
Maybe Cedric Beale, who, in fact, though, has just come out.
Yeah, he's finished. Yeah, he's just coming out.
So His run is all done. And that is going to mean that the grid is set. 19 drivers here in top split today. Of course, the field splits into 2 with the number of drivers who want to take part. So let's get a look at the grid. This is how everyone's going to be lining up at a track where track position really does play a pivotal role today. And Oliver Stepanov has managed an incredible time here in qualifying, a 1:13.881. He does have an affinity with this place. He is starting on pole position with Matteo Ugolotti alongside for company. Marcel Fassbender will start from 3rd, and Luis Nunez will go from 4th position. It's 6 different nationalities in the top 6, with Felipe Giro starting 5th, and the Norwegian Øyvind Haugland starting off in 6th position, a 1:14.9. Cedric Biel will go from 7th, along with Walter Lux in 8th position on the grid. Marcos Avila starts 9th position on the grid, I should say, and Thomas Wieck, the Dane, will round out the top 10. Anthony Cat will have Ruslan Sabatov for company 11th and 12th, with 13th position on the grid belonging to Ossian Richards, along with Frank Stefan in 14th position. Paulo Reagan and Tamas Jene, they will have row 8 of this field, with Alberto Lobo in 17th position. Ben Goyet, nice to see him back up in top split, in 18th, and not setting a time in qualifying was the Italian, the number 10, Fabrizio Rivera, who will have it all to do from the back of the field. Track temperature today is hot, 47 degrees. It is going to be a tough one on tyres, and this is traditionally the sort of place, Jay, where you are going to be not giving your car much of a rest for how tight and turny it is.
100%. You're going to put a lot of load on those tyres. You don't have a huge amount of time to brake or to rest the tyres, I should say. So tyre conservation, very, very important. It's going to be very, very interesting to see this run into turn 1, though. Fairly lengthy run into turn 1 in a comparison to what we see at other circuits. That could provide a little bit of extra entertainment as we get that run into turn 1. We have in the past at this track seen a little bit of controversy at turn 1 as well. So fingers crossed we see it nice and clean and we see some great battles throughout this race.
Of course, you only have to look back 12 months to see Valtteri Bottas's bowling game down at turn number 1. He had the most amazing strike as he went through, taking 4 drivers with him and running through off of the exit. But at least for today, these sim racers know that they have to be on best behaviour down at the opening section of track. A good start is very much paramount to this series as well. Drivers have been looking at how they go out there and be aggressive off of the line, but there is just one driver they wait for, Matteo Ugolotti, and he jumps himself up onto the grid. So start 34 laps. Compound changes are plenty. 2 drivers on the soft, Anthony Cat and Thomas Wieck. Alberto Lobo on the hard compound tyre. Green flag in the air, and we are racing. Ugolotti's got a better launch then from the dirty side of the track, and he's going to get the inside then. As they run towards turn number 1, they all follow to the inside. Fassbender and Nunez having a scrap through, but on the outside, trying to hold it off, is Oliver Stepanov. He's not going to get there. Ugolotti will take the race lead. They continue to fight then for 3rd, and on back, it's clean through the opening section. They run down the hill through turn 2.
Beautiful jump from Matteo Ugolotti to get that launch from Oliver Stepanov. He hasn't been 100% great in his starts this season, and he'll be the first to admit that as well, but done a very, very good job to close that gap back down. And Luis Nunez, great job from him to get that launch and get away from Marcel Fassbender. Fassbender not the best. Anthony Cat being the biggest mover, no surprise on those softs, already up 3 spots in the 8th position.
Yeah, so making progress early, trying to get as much as he can out of the soft tyre so he can switch over to the medium and start challenging. He's bottled up with Cedric Biel and Øyvind Haugland at this point. We go on board with Thomas Wieck, who's looking in front of him at Ruslan Sabatov on the brakes. Into the right-hander they go at turn 12, leading to the long turn 13. Out on the track, and it has been a very nice start to this race. And I tell you what, there was a race a couple of years ago, Jay, which effectively had Oliver Stepanov out here at the end of the opening lap. He's managed to last that long, so he should be a credible challenge. But here comes Sabatov, and that's just pure slipstream and battery. No need for the drag reduction system, which opens next lap.
Yeah, beautiful move there from Sabatov to get through on Walter Lux, and he'll drop back in a 10th position. He's dropped 2 spots. Belushi in 12th position. He's dropped 3 spots. Biggest mover at the moment, Rivera, is up 5. Started last in 19th position, already up into P14. Good to see him moving positions. Interesting, Thomas Veek has dropped a spot, even though he started on the soft compound tyre. We usually see moves getting made early, but not happening at this stage. And the other thing to note, Matteo Ugolotti is already a second ahead.
He's already broken away then of the drag reduction system markers. At certain points on the track, there'll be a white line on the circuit, and it will show you just how much you need to be within to get close. And you can see actually there on the helmet, Oliver Stepanov fighting back well in the final sector. He's in and around 1 second as he goes through, but you can see on the helmet here how iRacing have really got their attention to detail. You can see all of the bubbles and the dirt that has come across that visor.
Yeah, cool to see, isn't it? The little bits are the things that make it, aren't they? The little attention to detail. DRS now available from this point on as well. So could Ugolotti have maybe used a little bit of extra battery to try and break that second early, and Stepanov still got some to come back? I think he's going to close it back in, a little bit of harvesting there with the lights flashing. This is going to be interesting to watch over the next little bit between them. Felipe Giro is one that's caught my eye at the moment, though. He's doing very, very nicely in 5th and closing that gap down to Marcel Fassbender on this lap.
Yeah, Felipe Giro is doing a good job. Lost 2 tenths on that last lap. You can see how dirty it is as they come out of the chicane and run through the lefts and the rights then of this middle sector of the lap, which just sweeps through. You never have the car truly pointed in a straight line through that second sector, and that's where the downforce, the aerodynamics are so very greatly needed here at the Hungaroring. Giro not able to be close enough to make the move just yet, but running through turn at number 12, turn 13 and into turn 14. This is where you have to open it up. A 180-degree right-hander to end the lap, and it is bone flat as you go through there as well, which is the worst kind of 180-degree corner.
100%. You want a little bit of camber to help you through the corner, so to not have any at all is not the easiest thing. Interesting point to note at this stage. We're now 4 laps in. Ugolotti, Stepanov, Kat and Sabatov have not registered an official lap time yet. That means they've run off track on each of those 4 or 3 laps we've done so far. Remembering you only have 17 off-track incidents to play with, so you don't want to be running off the track each and every lap, not registering a lap time. You get to 17. That's a drive-through penalty, which will cost you around about 20-odd seconds at this track.
Yeah, 20 seconds. It is a pit lane that you have to be very alert to as you go through. You can hear the squeakings that go through. It's 80 kilometers an hour down in the lane. Stepanov has broken away from Luis Nunez in third position, but Matteo Ugolotti, who finds himself leading this race, it is very much a manageable gap at this point in time for Oliver Stepanov.
No DRS.
2 champions they go through. You could see there on the dash, no DRS. The 4 green lights would light up if he's got DRS, but that's not the end of the world right now, because he is still holding that gap, 16.5 to 16.5. He was faster the last lap, Jay, by 4 thousandths of a second. Fassbender's the one who's got to worry, though. Felipe Giro is hounding down his neck, and here comes a little dive into turn 1. Thomas Veek using the soft compound. Volta Lux in a bit of trouble, and that was a pass deluxe, you could say.
Very, very nice move. Used the DRS, used the tyres to his advantage, and done a very, very good job getting that done. But Thomas Veek probably won't be too happy with how few positions he's gained with those soft tyres. The grand number of 0 positions. He's got himself back to where he started, but Anthony Katz made inroads. He gained 3 on that first lap, and now he's maintaining that position. But the soft tyre doesn't appear to me like it's as fast as what we've seen at other tracks. Doesn't seem to be making the impact and the inroads that we see at other circuits. So we're probably going to see drivers hold out as long as possible on the mediums before they swap to the softs. The hard compound tyre, will we see it play an impact at all? Not sure. Alberto Lobo is out there on the hard. Will he go hard soft? I would guess yes. And that'll be a little bit of a guide for us. I'm going to guess he'll go as long as he can, maybe leave it with 2 or 3 laps to come in and take the soft compound. But surprised at how little gain there seems to be with the softs.
Yeah, it looks like everyone's in a bit of a holding pattern at the moment, especially Anthony Catt, who finds himself in 8th position right now because he's on the back of Cedric Beal and Oiving Horglan, but he can't find a way through because he's in that turbulence, that dirty air. This isn't 2022 spec where everyone is available to run a lot closer than they are. One of the big things that were changed from last year's Formula One regulations to this year's Formula One regulations is that they wanted to cut down on the rake on the back of the wings, which caused all those turbulences, and it is that rake which becomes a big issue, as I believe something's just happened to Oisin Richards in the 14. I did see him flying down the timesheet. He's had an issue out of 4.
Yeah, we'll pick it up on the VRS replay. Big thanks to Virtual Racing School for their support of us here at SimSpeed. And next corner coming up for Oisin Richards. What has happened to him? Oh, we see that each and every time we come here, don't we? Just a tiny little bit too wide. Get yourself into that that little gutter that's there. As he's just had another moment just as we come back to him. That was a good save. It's very, very easy to have happen. And it's not just in Formula cars that we see that mistake as well. We see that in lots of other cars. So he's not alone in making that error. Luis Nunez hasn't been able to match the pace of the guys in front at all, has he? He's just dropped bulk time and in a very, very quick rate.
Yeah, he has. He's already down nearly 6 seconds in this race. Marcel Fassbender, Felipe Giro, there with him at this point in time. But I tell you what, I wouldn't have wanted to be one of Oisin Richards' tyres. That much I am very sure of at this point. For Luis Nunez and the way he wants to construct this race, the way he wants to go forward, the way he wants to hold on to that 3rd place, he knows he doesn't have the pace of the top 2. So his role will be different now. It'll be damage limitation from this point onwards. Marcel Fassbender, Felipe Giro, they're all up there looking for as many good points as possible. And for the first time in a long time, I can safely say it, Jay, this hasn't been as much of a one driver runs away sort of series. The upper mid of this championship has got closer season on season.
100%. It's been a very, very competitive season, this one, hasn't it? We've seen 3 different winners so far. Of course, we saw Stepanov win a lot of races, but we've seen Ben Fuller win. Was it last week or the week before? We saw him win. We saw Kalen Chin win at Fuji. It hasn't been the Oliver Stepanov show that we saw in the season previous. So great to see. And Matteo Iglotti here is doing a bit of a masterclass, but this battle for 3rd is getting a little bit intense here. I think Marcel Fassbender wants through because he's more concerned about Felipe Giro behind than anything else.
He's got to earn the place, though. It's not going to be handed to him on a silver platter. That much is for certain. You don't get given overtakes, and if you do, that's very, very generous. Luis Nunez holding position. Felipe Giro in 5th place right now, and they will try and find those overtakes. But again, this is a track which was built before effectively the Hermann Tilke era of track design, where every element of the track has to, at some point in time, Jay, have that massive overtaking opportunity. This is old school. It doesn't have a guarantee. Yes, it's had changes to it to make it more accessible for that pass, but it is still really difficult to find those passes, and this second group is going to show that. Oiving Horgland, Cedric Beal, Anthony Catt, Ruslan Saptov all there. Cedric Beal was about half a second back at the line, and he can't find himself an angle to the inside at turn number 1, one of the tightest, not the tightest corner on this track.
Because there is a little DRS zone there out of turn 1 through, run down the hill to turn 2/3. We're having a little bit of a joke about that before the race, about how many corners it would be if we counted every little kink. Interesting that there is that second DRS zone there too. It's not really one that does a whole lot of the time, but when you've got a driver that almost gets a move done in his sort of half a car width alongside in a bit of a side-by-side situation, it does play an impact, but we don't see it play an advantage all that much. But when we do get that side-by-side happening, it will make an impact later on in the race. So make sure you keep an eye out for that second DRS zone playing an impact as we get closer towards the end of the race. This battle pack, though, is starting to get quite heated, and Anthony Catt may be starting to feel like these tyres are dropping off that cliff a little bit. He was applying pressure to Cedric Beale a couple of laps ago. Now he looks like he's just trying to hold on.
I'll tell you what, this isn't bad.
Oh, pit stop.
As we do have a pit stop behind, and no surprises, it's Thomas Veek who had just caught up to the back of the group, and he's going to try and make the gamble work on an extreme undercut on what I believe to be medium compound tyres. Mediums have gone on, and someone's gone off, and I believe that's Walter Lux, who has been in a bit of trouble there, and he's collected somebody else in that incident there. That would have been Marcos Avila, who has been involved in it, and that is, I believe, Walter Lux getting desperately unlucky. You'll see it on the virtual racing school replay here. DRS then for Avila as he tries to make the pass on Walter Lux. He thinks the inside, he locks up the rear axle, goes straight across the road like Lance Stroll did last year, and there's not much you can do there if you're Walter Lux. You have to open the steering up and pray that the car's not going to dive to the inside. Nothing he could have done.
No, just an unfortunate incident, isn't it? He did make a minor error there and ran a little bit wide, but I don't think it would have mattered if he ran wide or not. He still would have had contact made there, so very, very unfortunate. Yeah, the reverse strategy for Thomas Veek, be interesting to watch there as he's done 10 laps on the softs and now gone on to the medium compound tyre. It's probably the reverse that we'll see from everyone else in this field. So the ones that are out there on the mediums now are probably coming with 8, 9, 10 laps to go, put the softs on at that point. So going to be a compelling race in that aspect. This race in regards to length of time, one of the longest that we'll see in the season, because this overall pace of this lap is actually considerably slow in comparison to other tracks. So it's a little bit of a psychological game that goes on out there on this track too.
Yeah, only 280 kilometers an hour up in towards turn number 4, so you don't really get up through the gears. It's a technical masterpiece out there on the circuit, so you're always fighting against that. It is worth noting as well, with Anthony Catt stuck with the soft tyres at this point, there's your leader, Matteo Ugolotti, 3.1 seconds now to the good in this race here at the Hungaroring. Oliver Stepanov in second. The issue for Anthony Catt is that with his tyres, being stuck behind in that dirty air is only going to do one thing, Jay, and that's going to wear his tyres out more because he'll be understeering more.
Exactly right. It's going to be hurting those tyres, and he can't use them to their full potential. So, I mean, he's gained a few spots. He did a good job at the start to gain a couple of spots, but now, from this point on, he's probably got nothing left and will just basically be holding on. Interesting there too. Just noticed that Anthony Catt dropped it back to 7th gear very, very early, to use that to help slow him down into the corner. Very, very surprising, but we do see that at some tracks where drivers don't use the full 8th gear all the way into turn 1 or down the longest straight of whatever circuit we're at. It's a surprising thing to see, but it's not something we see as rarely as you would expect.
No, I think Anthony Catt wants to stay in a range where his tyres aren't going to wear out as much. That might be why he's at a gap of about 5/6 tenths of a second at this point in time. So that might be something just to keep an eye out on. Lap 12 of 34 at this point. They are over a third of the way through this race. Here's a look from the rear of Øyvind Haugland, the Norwegian driver, and behind him Cedric Beale, who has done this so many times before, has looked to try and really give a good showcase of himself as he runs through turn 13. Looking to move towards turn 14 and open up on the exit. Try and attack as early as you can. Deal and manage with the understeer. They've got Sabatov on the back of this group as well, who will be trying to get into the mix on top of it. And not quite close enough then in towards turn number 1. No chance for a move, and spin in the back. There's a spin in the back for Frank Steffen, who has gone around and somehow has avoided everyone.
Unusual spot to see a spin, so we'll pick it up on the replay in a second. Austin Richards may get a move done here, and does. So Richards through and up into 16th position as he regains some spots from, or maybe not. Here's that double DRS going to help him. He will get the move done in the end as Thomas Veek tries to get back up the inside, but we'll see if we can pick up a replay of that spin there, because that was an unusual one, wasn't it?
It happened so late on in the corner. You see back end steps out, tries to recover it, and how has Marcos Avila avoided that? That is a huge bit of fortune that has come along for him. But you can see he comes in, fourth gear trying to put the power down. The backs just snap. And then there's the tank slapper, and he's pretty much pointing, seeing the blue machine look to charge up towards him. He's done so well not to make contact with not only the other drivers who are there, Jay, as into the pits now comes Anthony Catt then to make his stop coming off of the soft after just 13 complete laps worth of racing, but also to avoid the barriers on the inside.
It's crazy, that one, wasn't it? And I tell you what, Sperry, thanks to the YouTube chat, we've got info as to why they're dropping back to 7th gear down the straight. It's actually because 7th will charge the battery quicker. There we go. Now we know. After all of this time of us being confused about it, we now know.
We now do, and of course that battery recharging is really important. You flick down into 7th gear, and it's all down to braking. So if you can find a little bit where you can brake more out on circuit without compromising the time, that gives you more battery per lap to effectively go out there and use. And that's where the energy recovery system has been so important, and electronically as a system has been crucial. And I think it's one of the great inventions that have come about in Formula One racing as Cedric Beale continues to try and chase down Øyvind Haugland. But it was a time, Jay, where there was talks about it being something very rudimentary as a system if Williams and Toyota had their way. Ruslan Sabatov coming into the pits.
A little surprising to see Sabatov in on mediums at this stage, as Cedric Beale may be close enough to get a move done. No, not quite close enough, but he's almost there, isn't he? Cedric Beale almost able to get the run out of the final corner and get the move done, but he's not quite close enough. But I don't think it's too far away. This is going to be big for Sabatov to get this done on softs. He's going to have to do 20 laps. Paul O'Regan in as well. He'll come in and get softs. And there was another car I saw in too. Ossian Richards also in. So 3 cars coming in on this lap to make their pit stop.
I'll tell you what, getting very lucky is Ruslan Sabatov. He's just come out around with Anthony Catt right now as the battle on the group where they are is right there. Catt sweeps around the outside on what are warmer tyres, bedded in tyres, gets the pass sorted. Sabatov having to get up to speed. Stefan in the middle of this has got around. There goes Frank Stefan hard into the wall. His race is done.
Big damage to the rear of that car. And as you said, he is done. He is out. He will not continue in this one. And that was a big, big impact. Pick it up on the VRS replay. And I'm going to say it's that curb again. Yep, that gutter once more. Takes another victim.
It does, and there are no fast repairs here in the iRacing Grand Prix Series, so there is no extra car to get back out and working again. In comes Cedric Beale, tired of being bottled up behind Øyvind Haugland. He's going to come into the pits, try and make his stop and get going again. Now, it is going to be long in terms of how they make a soft tyre work, but they are now able to go a little bit longer on that soft tyre, as proven last week when Ben Fuller picked up the victory.
Comes Cedric Beale right out in the middle of this group. Remember, he's on soft tyres, as is Sabatov. And Anthony Catt already reused his softs. He's back out there now on the medium. Oh, this pack's going to get very, very wild very, very quickly with how little... Oh, no, around. Is that Tamasene around?
It is, coming out of turn 2, and that has completely teed and totaled the car. So second car of lap traffic that's finding out that the tyres are biting back. He just went a little deep into turn 2. That's the issue. He's got out into the grass here, Jay. You're going to see it in a moment, and that is enough to spin the car around heavily into the wall.
Wondering if he's been doing a little bit of mirror watching there with how much battling was happening in that pair behind. Yeah, into the grass, bang, and the whole right-hand side of the car destroyed, done, race over, no more.
No more. Into the pits comes Øyvind Haugland then, so that entire battle pack is now...
Oh, they're all going to come out together too.
Into play. And they are going to come out together because there they all are at this point in time. Catt started to lose ground to Cedric Beale. You've got Sabatov there, and they're all going to start looking. Haugland then hits the commitment cone, will get up to speed. Where is he going to get in comparison as he goes through? Very tight with the line, but Beale's going to swing around the outside. He gets the undercut.
Only just. I'll tell you what, that was lucky from Haugland too. The way he crossed the line there, I was surprised that he didn't get an unsafe pit exit, but looks like it's okay with the just going over the line. He would have known the limit that he could go. He's gone to that exact limit. Anthony Cat doing a good job of maintaining the pace despite him being on used, although not that used, mediums in comparison to all these guys out there on fresh softs. Shows there's not a huge pace difference between the soft and the medium here.
Yeah, not that much of a difference, and later on in the race it is going to come back then to him right now. Keep an eye on the battle for thirds. We'll take a look at the virtual racing school replay then. So this is going to be Luis Nunez, and how this gap has suddenly closed back in as he goes over the AstroTurf there a little bit, runs a bit wide, has to fight the car through turn 13. Yeah, you're absolutely right, a huge slide, and that's brought Marcel Fassbender right into play then at the halfway stage as we start lap 18.
Yeah, only halfway through. What a race this has been so far. We've seen more action in the first 17 laps than we often will see in 2 or 3 races. So, been great to watch. Hasn't been a huge number of overtakes, but the drivers have been fighting the cars. The cars are not wanting to behave in the way that they want them. You can see how aggressive everyone is being. I wouldn't be surprised if we start to see some drive-through penalties in the second half of this race with how aggressive some drivers are not necessarily just being. They're almost forced to be just due to the way the cars are behaving.
Yeah, it's a sort of understanding of when you're driving a car like this, you have to be very careful. As Marcel Fassbender then will initiate this group starting to come in and make their stops. It's the sort of car where the way you get your grip is you drive faster. So the more aggressive that you are around this track, the more downforce essentially that you have, the faster you go. So all these drivers know to go faster, you got to drive faster. It seems like so counterintuitive to what they have to deal with.
Yeah, sometimes you almost find yourself you get in a rhythm, and you don't necessarily push hard, but the lap time will come naturally. But you really do have to push these cars. They like being pushed hard, don't they? They like the behavior of being worked hard. As Marcel Fassbender comes out with a tiny little bit of traffic, he's okay. But if he had got stuck behind Voltalux there, he may have found himself in a little bit of trouble and lost a bit of ground to these guys ahead. The fact he's come out and just ahead, he may be okay and get an actual undercut. Matteo Ugalotti's he's lost a little bit of ground on this lap due to some lap traffic. Will we see him come in? No. He's lost around about 8 or 9 tenths of a second on this lap with that traffic.
Yeah, it took a while to get past Alberto Lobo so that was a little bit of a struggle street for him. But I was just looking as well at Walter Lux. That would have been for track position and a pass for place. So There's not much more that you can say or do about that. Walter Lux had every right to fight for the place there going forward with Marcel Fassbender. It'll be interesting to see how quickly he can get up to pace and he can run forward. But in comes Luis Nunez then to cover off the stop. Felipe Giro will keep going. So too Fabrizio Rivera will stay out. But Luis Nunez has to cover off Marcel Fassbender, who's going down the front stretch right now, and off of the exit. It's going to be very tight as they get towards turn number 1. Fassbender at the braking zone. He's going to have to go around the outside of Nunez, who's going to have to shepherd him off. Gives him the space, though. The inside's there for Nunez, and he's got the DRS on the inside. That's crucial. But again, you can dive on the outside, but you're going to run out of grip there as the track falls away from you. Luis Nunez has lost out to Marcel Fassbender.
Nunez has got the extra lap advantage in regards to tyre life, so he might be able to come back, and of course, he may have a bit of battery that he can use to try and close that gap back down. But beautiful job from Marcel Fassbender. Thought with that rejoin, he may have found himself losing half a tenth or half a second or maybe a second, but it was enough in the tank for him to be able to get that position. Finds himself now in 5th, but effectively finds himself in P3. Felipe Giro in the pits. He's decided, well, I might as well come in as well. So this is going to be interesting between these guys again.
It is. I do expect, though, falling to the back of that pack will be Felipe Giro.
Maybe in the middle.
So he'll have to get himself through. And, well, now he's in, up, down, and off and away again he'll go. But Giro will look behind him. He will see that one will go through. Luis Nunez will go through. But he hasn't lost too much from that stop. He's still in that groove.
Yep. No, I think that's important to still be in the groove. He's still got DRS, so you'll still be able to close that gap down. Interesting already, you see that Luis Nunez did not have the DRS open on that little run from turn 1 to turn 2. So already losing a bit of ground is Luis Nunez. So Fassbender maybe just using as much battery as he can. Last lap by, lap time didn't count, but it was second fastest lap of the race. Fastest lap of the race just then to Matteo Ugolotti on the previous lap, a 1:16.2. Actually, sorry, I take that back. Cedric Beal has set the fastest lap of the race.
He has, and he has been flying, has Cedric Beal, 16.207, 2:08 as we can see it on the graphic, his fastest overall. So at least that for this time at the moment, Cedric Beal has been trying to make a gap, and he has worked really well at building that gap. He has put a couple seconds on Oyvind Haugland and has looked a lot better when it's come to the soft tyre in comparison to the medium. So it really does show you how easily you can get bottled up behind another driver.
And Anthony Catt's still doing a great job holding off Sabatov as well. I would have thought that would have been done just based on medium versus soft. But we saw how difficult Anthony Catt found it to get past the medium tyre runners when he was on the soft. So I'm guessing roles reversed and Anthony Catt doing the same as what the others were doing to him earlier.
Yeah, pretty much. Anthony Catt has dropped about 5 seconds to Cedric Beal in comparison, though. But it will be the second half of this stint with about, I would say, 7 laps to go, where it's going to start closing back up for him. And in fact, he is starting to open up that gap a bit to Sabatov, which will be a bit concerning. In comes Oliver Stepanov. That's not surprising. Ugolotti was always going to here, Jay, stay out until Stepanov pits in and just cover off the move.
Nunez has closed this gap back down. It was out to 1.2 seconds a lap and a half ago, but this lap by, Nunez has decided, well, I'm going to push, I'm going to use the button, I'm going to try and close that gap down and get myself back up into a potential podium position. Stepanov's away, Rivera's in, leaves one driver left to pit, and it's the driver that is the fastest out on track at the moment, and he's on the mediums.
And they are old mediums on top of that as well.
Oh, wow, what a lap.
Absolutely. So he's flying. So that's going to be worth keeping in mind. Rivera as well has come in for a stop. Now, remember, Fabrizio Rivera was dead last in the field, didn't set a time, and he's going to come out side by side with Thomas Wieck through the opening corner. He's not going to have much to play with here. Has the DRS, but has to hit the brake early, which would have meant that his DRS would have stopped. So Wieck's got the move, but Rivera's got the tyres.
Yeah, remember, Wieck's also on mediums, not on softs. He started on the soft tyre, so Thomas Wieck will feel a bit of pressure from behind. We'll go back to that battle in a minute because Luis Nunez is still closing this gap down. He was the first driver to do a 1:15. He's done 2 1:15 laps back to back and is still on very, very good pace. Interesting too, looking at the lap times. Felipe Giro has punched out his personal best fastest lap 2 laps in a row, and on this lap here he should go faster again. So he isn't far off getting into the DRS of these guys ahead and starting to slowly catch them.
That was a 15.7, by the way, from Felipe Giro.
Beautiful.
Half a second quicker than the two in front of Fassbender and Nunez in the battle for the podium. And where they've come out, they've only come out 5 seconds behind Oliver Stepanov, and this driver, Matteo Ugolotti, has not made a pit stop just yet. So I wonder how long Ugolotti's going to want to stay out then in this race, as very deep on the brakes goes Rivera, trying to get the pass done on Thomas Wieck. Hasn't got it done. We'll try and look around the outside at turn 2, open up the corner, get the power down a little bit earlier. And if he can get a good sweeping run through 3, he's got a chance at 4. Virtual Race School replay for the attempted move. He pulled out the latest available opportunity, just went a little bit too deep.
He had it done because you actually watch as he comes through, move done, loses the position, but he was that far ahead that Thomas Wieck actually had the DRS from that second activation point. So that's how far ahead Rivera was, but obviously doesn't really matter if you don't make the corner.
Rivera is looking here, there and everywhere to try and find this pass into turn 12. Could be a place, but no. Didn't have enough of a run to make that happen. And looking around the outside of turn 13 in through the long setup of turn 14. There might be another place to get that overtake sorted, but look how close it is. Pretty much nose to tail as they exit the final corner, go on to their 25th lap of the race. Rivera to the inside then, looking to make the pass. This time it's a lot more accomplished under braking, and up then into 10th position. Last spot in the top 10 currently has Rivera's name all over it.
Much more composed move. I think the first attempt was literally an attempt to try and work out where he could brake. And didn't get it done, but he's finally got there. Speaking of finally, into the pits comes Matteo Ugolotti, and he'll come in and get some soft tyres and try and punch out fastest lap after fastest lap. Stepanov hasn't really been able to make inroads on that gap, which was out to about 7 odd seconds before the pit stops, and I feel it'll be very, very similar. The moment, long stop for Ugolotti because he just wanted to make sure it was 100% perfect. Away he goes. He'll maintain a 6 odd second lead.
Yeah, it's that level of dominance from Matteo Ugolotti, who took the lead on the opening corner, and he has not looked back in this race and is going to try and get a Grand Slam. Nunez, what a move! Down the inside, contact with Marcel Fassbender's front wing, and he's got the pass done, and somehow he got that slowed. Oh my goodness, what a pass!
Well, I missed that, so we need to have another look for sure, because that sounded like it was a better pass than the little bit of driving from Ugolotti and Stepanov. How did he get that done? Because looking at the exit of the final corner, he was a mile back.
He was, but he was a mile into the corner. Watch this as he brakes from about 3 leads
wow.
back. How does he get this stopped?
I think he's missed his braking point and gone, oh no, I better make a move out of it. That was incredible. How did he do that?
You catch people napping, and Marcel Fassbender
He's already broken the gap too.
Yeah, exactly, and that is crucial. Marcel Fassbender is losing time out there. There is no damage to Fassbender's front wing, despite the little bit of contact that was there at the corner. So Marcel Fassbender is suddenly going to have to be looking behind, because Felipe Giro will have eyes on 4th position, and they've got a little bit of traffic to negotiate in the form of Ben Goyette,
which potentially could help Nunez get some DRS. No, he won't, but interesting. Fassbender does not have DRS. Giro does and closes that gap down. Now, at the end of this lap too, I want to check on Matteo Ugolotti, see what he does in regards to lap time, because I am expecting this to be fastest lap of the race. He's out lap very, very quick, but the start of this lap, purple sectors everywhere.
Purple sectors everywhere. He knows what he wants. He wants the entirety of the Grand Slam. Luis Nunez was heavy over the radio saying, blue flags, come on, let me go, let me go. And he got what he wanted out of Ben Goyette. Traffic's always really good in this series, so they get through without any dramas at all. But Matteo Ugolotti wants the Grand Slam here, Jay, which is to be fastest lap. He doesn't quite get pole position, though, so he can't have the full Grand Slam. But he can get, in terms of this race, every lap led and fastest lap on top of it over the line.
Oh, wow.
15 flat.
The next fastest lap out there is a 15.4. So he's beaten everyone by 4/10. That's incredible pace. And of course, he's on the freshest tyres as well, so he can push even harder than everyone else. Stepanov 15.6, Nunez 16.2, Fassbender 16.6, 16.7. Giro, Cedric Beal doing 17s now. Wow, this pace is incredible.
It is. Sometimes it's just not fair when a driver is that good, and that has certainly proven it right now.
That's why we're in the comms box, Barry.
Yeah.
We're too good for everyone.
Yeah, clearly. At this point in time, though, I do want to keep an eye out on Fabrizio Rivera in the number 10 car, because he has now just caught up to the back of Kat and Sabatov, and how he finds a pass, I think is going to be very interesting for the end of this race. Now, he's catching the drivers whose tyres are going to be at the oldest stage of his life. Look at Sabatov.
Wow,
he lets him go because he knows he's got no life compared to him.
Yeah, 8 laps difference in regards to tyre life, so no point. And of course, Sabatov hasn't been able to make inroads on Anthony Cat ahead. Maybe thinks, well, I'll let you through. You've been faster in the last little bit. Remembering, too, that he started last. Started in 19th position, has found himself up 10, now in 9th, and I would not be surprised within 2 laps that he gets himself up into 8th.
I wouldn't be surprised either. Anthony Cat's been doing very well on his medium tyres, but Cat's been up there. He doesn't want to lose any places he feels that he can hold on to. He takes a much different line as well. A later apex into turn 13. Opening up now turn 14. Late to the apex as you can, as you try and get the car straightened. And now here comes the DRS. And this might just be plain sailing. Moving to the inside. Here comes Fabrizio Rivera. He didn't even have to wait 1 or 2 laps, Jay. He only had to wait 1 or 2 corners.
That's what I said, wasn't it? Corners? Corners laps are the same thing, no. Beautiful move, though. That was beautifully done. He just squared the exit of the final corner off to get the run down the straight. He did compromise a little bit of mid-corner speed, but the run out of the corner was perfect. Did a beautiful job. And have a look at the gap he's already pulled on Sabatov as well. He's already pulled 1.5 seconds on him, so he is flying. Next car ahead for him is Horgland. It's 3.4 seconds up the road. Probably a little bit too far back, but you never know what can happen in these races. One minor mistake could change the whole complexion.
It's 4 seconds up to him, and he was a second a lap faster that last time by. So I don't think it's impossible just yet. Felipe Giro still hoping to make a pass on Marcel Fassbender, but he is stuck, and properly stuck at 0.7 of a second behind. And it's the worst feeling in the world when you get stuck there, because you are right there in position to be able to make a move, but you can't make any more inroads.
You just can't do any more, can you? You're right there, as you said. You're there close enough to make a move, but you just don't have that final little 1% that's enough to get you over the line and get that move done. So you'll be frustrated by that, but in the same breath, the quality of field that you've got sitting yourself in P5 is a pretty good result and a pretty good effort. Still a good points haul at this stage of the race. But yeah, one more spot would be brilliant for him. He'd love to take one more. Nunez, have a look at the gap that Nunez has pulled over the last couple of laps. Last lap by was 0.6 of a lap quicker than Fassbender. Fassbender, I think, just looking at that front wing, there may be a tiny little crinkle in it. It might have a tiny little bit of damage. Not much, but it may be enough for him to drop maybe 1 or 0.2 of a second. Add in the extra pace that Nunez seems to have found on the softs. That could be enough to break the heart of Marcel Fassbender.
Very much could. And for Marcel, 4th position has sort of been the story of his season, really. He's picked up so many 4th places. He doesn't quite know what to do with them. Very much Nico Hulkenberging his way around this iRacing Grand Prix Series season at this point in time. I was having an eye on Marco Sevilla and Walter Lux, but Lux has just started to pull away a little bit in the battle for 12th and 13th. And those two, of course, remember earlier on in this race, Jay, actually came together.
Yeah, down at turn 1. We remember that there was a mistake there from Marcus in the number 13, the blue car. He made a big error and did make contact, but they've kept it a little bit cleaner in the run on the softs as opposed to the run on the mediums. So now, remember earlier we were talking about Alberto Lobo, who went out there on the hard compound tyre, started the race on the hard. We haven't talked about what he's done since he pitted. He's come back out on the medium, so he's gone hard medium, which I'm very, very shocked by.
I think it's a confidence issue for Alberto Lobo. He probably wouldn't have expected to be up here in top split racing, and he would just want a tyre that gives him life. And some drivers, of course, use a lot more tyre compared to others out there. And if you don't feel like you've got the stability on the soft tyre, don't run it. It's as simple as that. Felipe Giro then, 3 laps to go, has to try and find a way through to jump up into 4th position. He closes up under braking, but it is a stark difference for when drivers can pick up the accelerator, because you get to about now, only now at that point in time, just as they were starting to brake, were they even in terms of top speed?
Yeah, he's just not quite close enough, is he? Just can't get the run out of the last corner. It seems to be a little bit of a hamper for him. He's evenly matched for pace through every single sector, except for the last sector. He's dropping a tiny little bit of time. Looking at the personal best sectors I've got up on my my screen, I can see that they're identical for pace in sector 1, of 0.02 of a second different in sector 2, but sector 3, Felipe Giro versus Marcel Fassbender, best sector, 1.2 of a second difference. So noticeable difference in this final sector for Felipe Giro. He's just not quite able to match the pace of Fassbender through this section of the track. And you just saw there a little bit of a wiggle, couldn't get himself across to the racing line as early as Fassbender could.
Yeah, and it's just showing here as they look to try and race and battle for their places. Once more, it's not going to be in a place to make that pass. Someone who will, though, is Fabrizio Rivera. Oh,
Maybe.
a huge wiggle, though.
Maybe.
As he goes off for the exit of turn 13. That might have just sped.
If he doesn't do it, it's your fault.
Maybe not. Because look at this, they've got the traffic to go through as well, and they're going to go 3 wide as they run now down towards turn number 1. Rivera, better on the brakes. I was looking at him the entire lap through as he confirms it by locking up the tyre dramatically as he goes through. I was watching Rivera the entire lap through there, Jay, and he was trying 3-4 different ways. He was miles faster than Øyvind Haugland.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, he nearly threw it away through that second last corner though, didn't he? He tried his hardest to throw it away as we put him on camera. It was a huge wiggle, but he's managed to hold on. As Matteo Ugolotti a little bit slower on this lap. He's harvesting every single bit of battery. He's going to try and set the fastest lap of the race on the final lap.
There's a certain 4-time world champion who always looked to do that in the Red Bull days, certain Sebastian Vettel, and his championship then in terms of, and his championship that he won was really strong, really good. But in terms of now what he needs to do in this race, he knows that he wants to try and emulate something like that, give absolutely everything on this last lap going forward. Drivers are all trying to find their extra position here and there. There has been a pass further down the order. Ossian Richards through on Paul O'Regan in the battle for 14th and 15th. But for Matteo Ugolotti running through the chicane, this is a return to a level of dominance we wouldn't expect to have seen out of him. Oliver Stepanov is no slouch. He is one of the best sim racers in the world when it comes to these open wheel Formula cars, especially this Mercedes W12E performance. And if you can put 10 seconds on him, which I think is staggering out there in terms of a race, Matteo Ugolotti, hands down, is head and shoulders above the field again. He'll run through the final corner for one of the most dominant drives.
Oh.
Big slides as he goes through and celebrates with a massive win, a 1:15.6 to end off what was a dominant race.
Well done from Matteo, leading every lap. Beautiful start. Stepping off best of the rest in the end. And Luis Nunes, what a drive from him to steal third away. Probably didn't have the outright pace for third, but he stole it from Marcel Fassbender down into turn 1 from what potentially was an error.
Yeah, and I don't think he'll own up to it being an error. That much I will say.
We
but
will,
he'll
though.
claim he meant that one. He'll claim he meant that move, Jay.
Oh, 100%. I bet we saw it on the replay. We saw that probably wasn't how we wanted to get the pass done. Good drive from Rivera. Drive of the day. Gets himself into 7th position from where he started. He did pass Hoyland on the second last lap. We did miss that, but what a drive from him to start last and to finish 7th. That's incredible.
I believe we actually showed that, Jay.
Did we?
Yeah, we did.
Look, it's been a long morning.
Yeah, it's been a very long morning.
7 a.m. and it's been a long morning already.
Oh, incredible, isn't it, what you do in Australia. There's Paul O'Regan, last finisher on the lead lap over the line. So let's get official classified results. 43 minutes, 42 seconds. One result. Matteo Ugolotti wins by 8.3 over the line over Oliver Stepanov then, who did a valiant effort of trying to hold on to it but couldn't quite match Ugolotti's pace today. Luis Nunez will finish off in third with Marcel Fassbender in 4th position. The fabled pass of Luis Nunez, absolutely incredible, with Felipe Giro rounding out the top 5. Cedric Beale will finish off in 6th. He did really well to break away from his group after the early stops, with Fabrizio Rivera running his way up through the field to finish 7th today. That is a really strong achievement from the number 10. Øyvind Haugland will finish off in 8th position with Anthony Cat in 9th, and the top 10 rounded out by Ruslan Sabatov then, who didn't quite have the pace to match those in front. Thomas Wieck was the first taker into the pits, and he fell back to 11th position with that early stop, with Walter Lux having a little bit of contact with Marcos Avila, but the two of them finishing 12th and 13th. Ossian Richards gets 14th, making a pass late in the day on Paul O'Regan, who finishes off in 15th. And then you've got one lap down, Alberto Lobo, who had no confidence in the soft tyre today, so went Hard Medium, and Ben Goyette, and then the two retirees within a lap of each other and in front of the same groups or within the same groups, Frank Stefan and Tamas Shane, not necessarily in that order, the other way around. Shane, then Stefan, both finding retirements then out of racing action. But, Jay, next time out, it's a tithing to pay because the Temple of Speed awaits. It always brings a smile. It's one of the quickest races out there on the calendar. It is Monza. It is majestic every time we go.
Love this track in Formula vehicles. High downforce cars or open wheel cars, it always provides something brilliant. I remember a race we broadcast a couple of seasons ago in the IR01, which was won by, I think, 1,000th of a second from memory. It was very, very close, and we've had some brilliant races in this car as well, or in the Formula One style cars as well. So bring it on. As you said before, always puts a smile on your face. As soon as I saw the B-roll come up, I started smiling. So you're 100% right. Bring it on.
Bring it on indeed. It's one of the most majestic places, we've said time and again. It's got that history of the old and the new, one of the first tracks to be designed in the world in the 1920s, and racing on the outskirts of Milan, a stone's throw in the Royal Park of Monza. That is going to be what awaits us next week, 1 week from today. If you haven't already, like, share, and subscribe to SimSpeed TV. Get yourself in and watching more racing action that happens all throughout the week. But it cannot be done without the likes of the iRacing open wheel community who helps bring these wonderful, wonderful broadcasts to us. On top of that, you got to say a massive thanks to the Virtual Racing School who have been on the replays here today, from Jay Kennedy and myself, Jake Sperry. That from Matteo Ugolotti is a masterclass in taking the race lead and making sure nobody in a month of Saturday night is going to let that one get away. He knew what he needed to do, build a gap, and on this summer, he made sure he would firmly slam shut any opportunities that Oliver Stepanov had. But sometimes you do have to look at the bigger picture. Ugolotti making start after start. Oliver Stepanov will have to start looking over his shoulder, finding some pace, because when the drop rounds start kicking in, Ugolotti's going to keep scoring, and Oliver Stepanov's going to have to rely on the strength of field. We'll see you a week from today, because we've got to pay a tithing. The Temple awaits.
This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction. He's got rid of the outside of both of them. Maloney.
Oh, he's taken Anderson. Anderson's up top.
Oh my God! Oh, big crash! Oh my goodness! Half the field's gonna get involved.
It's very close. These guys are going to want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, there we go. Oh, no. That's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh, my God.
God, what?